watch Adrian Sullivan playing blue-white control, as he's always doing against Dan Maftei playing Esper control. I'm going to give you Adrian's deck list.
And Adrian's been a pretty faithful soldier to this blue-white control list. He's played it to a lot of success in opens and on the PTQ circuit and such. It is a, control list. Basically, he has 1 Aetherling, 1 Elspeth to win with, 4 copies of Jace. A lot of interesting one-ups. A lot of people do not play like a Cyclonic Rift. He has a Disperse main deck. We've seen him in previous opens use that alongside with Detention Sphere to permanently exile something. So
I love the Disperse. Ugh.
Adrian very practiced with this list.
Yeah, this is a list that, as you mentioned, a lot of results here with this list. We saw an open where he got a game loss for writing a card down incorrectly. He ended up getting, I think, 9th place on Breakers that particular weekend. And then we were in St. Louis, he lost his winning in that weekend too. So he's been doing very, very well in the Open Series with blue-white control. These players will shake hand. Adrian's always the sporting gentleman as we are underway in game number 3 here between the Sphinx's Revelation control decks. Obviously, these players are going to have to get rolling. They've got about 13 minutes on the clock, and this is no short affair between these decks.
No, and in this matchup, I really like the Esper control list, as access to Thoughtseize in the post-board games is more powerful than anything Adrian can really bring to the table.
Maftei going to play another Scry land. You see Sullivan with his upside down lands that he plays. If you've never seen Adrian play before, he does play all of his permanents upside down, so his opponent can read them. That's all. Nothing crazy going on. This looks like we have a Thoughtseize here. Sullivan going to lay his cards down. There's a Gainsay, a Dissolve, a couple of lands over there. I believe a Fated Retribution in his hand.
Yeah, this is why I believe Esper has an edge in the matchup. Duresses and Thoughtseizes are just very challenging to beat in a control mirror match. It allows Dan the ability to more proactively resolve his Revelations, and if he is able to resolve Revelations, more proactive stuff to do the following turn instead of just discarding the hand size.
Now, one card that Dan doesn't actually have is Nightveil Spectre. That's a card that's been really, really popular in the sideboard of Esper control decks. A lot of Esper control decks moving towards creatures, but that's not something that Maftei is actually doing this weekend. He's got a lot of spells in his sideboard, up to and including 4 copies of Thoughtseize.
Yeah, being more proactive is pretty common in the post-board games, no matter what tools you choose, and certainly Nightveil Spectre has gained a lot of popularity for that slot recently.
Yeah, Sullivan, his approach is going to actually be more reactive since he has access to more counter spells because he's not actually splashing for a 3rd color. You're going to see a Temple of Deceit for him, but that's just to facilitate scrying here. Adrian going to take a look. He's going to leave it on top and pass the turn back. This will actually be a copy of Keening Apparition, a 1-of in his sideboard. Yeah,
we also saw 1-of in the Esper mid-range list that we just saw on camera. Certainly powerful alongside Whip of Obsidian potentially, and also just being more proactive, helpful in the post-board games.
A Gainsay is going to allow Sullivan to fight over this Jace, but a counterspell back will mean that I don't think so. Here is Jace. This is going to tick down, and this is part of the reason you have to like Keening Apparition, because that's going to be able to finish off Jace. You see some cards here. A Jace to Dissolve and a land. Sullivan will split those Dissolve versus, saying, I don't want to have to deal with counter magic. I think I can control Jace, so Dissolve will go to the bottom, and Maftei will actually take the Jace and the land, as Sullivan will quickly untap. He's going to take a draw. This is a Temple of Enlightenment, so it'll allow him to scry. He'll consult his hand very quickly. Top card's going to go to the bottom. Apparition's going to finish off Jace.
And part of the reason that Mutavault is so powerful in the post-board games is the ability to handle Jace after it's minus, which is a very common line in the mirror match. And Keening Apparition is even better because once the mana's been spent, Adrian doesn't have to reinvest like he does into Mutavault.
Yeah, Maftei is actually just using the Jaces, it seems like, it's just kind of overpriced divinations that also provide a bit of a fog effect too. It looks like he's going to deploy another Jace here in just a moment, and he does. Sullivan's hand not particularly good right now, as Maftei is going to actually tick up Jace. So he says, I want to actually protect this a little bit. He's going to play a Hollow Fountain tap and pass the turn back over to Sullivan, who will take a draw step very quickly. He's going to fire up Mutavault. He's going to get after Jace. 2 triggers, going to knock that down to 3, as those are only 1 power creatures. Another Mutavault here from Adrian, and all he will do is simply pass the turn back over to Maftei, who will draw a card, and we'll see if he has anything sweet to do this turn.
Well, he has a copy of Sphinx's Revelation in his hand, and I'm not sure, along with the one he's flipping over to Jace right now, and I'm not sure if Adrian has any way to contain it.
You see Adrian's going to split Revelation versus Maftei is going to take the Sphinx's Revelation, one of the most powerful cards in this matchup. Sullivan going to quickly untap. He's going to take a draw. You do see the Elixir of Immortality out there. Looks like Adrian may have just picked up an Aetherling as well. But he's going to start by casting an Azorius Key Rune, a card that he is a big fan of, as this is another card that allows him to A, keep attacking, and B, contain Jace.
Yeah, taxing Planeswalker is really valuable for the blue list, as is mana. So
yes.
It makes some sense.
And the fact that he can accelerate a little bit, you know, into revelations and things of that nature has got to be pretty nice. Can work his way towards a fast Elspeth as well. As here's a revelation for Maftei. He's going to draw 1, a 2, a 3, a 4 copies and make it 5. So he is reloading very well. We can't forget that he has another revelation. It looks like he's going to tap some mana right now. Is this going to be 6 or 7? 6. Maybe a copy of Elspeth or maybe an Aetherling. Looks like it's going to be the Planeswalker.
And this outclasses all of Adrian's little attackers.
How
certainly.
dare you? How could you say that? Azorius Keyrune can go to the skies.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. The Keyrune is still good to go.
You see a little scry action here from Maftei. He's just going to pass the turn back. Sullivan going to draw a card here. And this is a copy of Glare of Heresy. Will we fight over this? Maftei does have a copy of Negate in his hand.
Adrian's shown some weakness in the last couple of turns, not fighting over Revelations and not fighting over the Elspeth as well. So
it looks like Negate does take care of the Glare. Now Sullivan's going to tap some mana. I wonder what this is going to be. This is going to be firing up Mutavault. Actually, he's just going to cast Fated Retribution. So this is actually a really nice turn here for Adrian, because even though he's going to lose his copy of Keening Apparitions, he's going to clear up some stuff. He's going to get the scry since this is on the main phase. He's going to figure out what he wants to do. He's going to leave one on top, one on bottom. He's only got one card in his hand, though, so definitely some weakness here.
Yeah, I think he's just in a lot of trouble, too. Also, keep in mind, just Dan has so many discard spells to be drawing over the course of this game, too. So it's really hard for Adrian to set anything up. His counter spells are likely going to be way less powerful than Dan's are going to be. There's just a lot of bad things going on for Adrian right now.
And Maftei is going to resolve a main phase revelation right now. Yes, he's going to have to discard some cards because it's a rev for 6, but he doesn't care.
No.
He says this is important for me to actually resolve at this point. So he's going to do his discarding, and Sullivan's going to take his turn. You see the players really shortcutting here because, hey, we got to get moving and grooving because of this clock.
This is a spot where Aetherling could steal the game, though, if Adrian has it. The shields are down.
This is some mana. That's a Jace, so it's definitely not an Aetherling. This is going to turn over a couple of cards. There's a Negate. There's a copy of Aetherling and an Attention Sphere. Choose wisely, Mr. Sullivan, because I'm sure this is not the exact time that he wanted to turn over Aetherling. One of the few times, I think, where, you know, turning over Aetherling right now is actually pretty poor because he can't cast it, and you have to believe that Maftei is going to be able to counter it next turn.
Yeah, some sort of gainsay or Thoughtseize. It's you had to imagine it's not going to be good here.
Yep. Sullivan going to consult the one card in his hand. Now he has to make a decision on the split. Do I want the counterspell in the D-Sphere, or do I want the Aetherling? And he says, I want the counterspell in the D-Sphere. Aetherling, you'll have to come later. And he's just going to pass the turn back. Will Sullivan with some mana available. No attacks there with Mutavault or the Keyrune, as here's a Jace from Maftei.
Yeah, I think with Dan at 30, it's more important for Adrian to be able to play around Syncope than it is to hit for some damage.
Little scry action, going to put the top card to the bottom. Jace is going to take down. This is a Last Breath, along with the Dissolve and a Temple of Enlightenment. Last Breath going to go to the grip. Might be a little surprising to see Maftei leave that in, but it does a fantastic job of taking care of Mutavault, which is great in the mirror match.
Yeah, it's possible he's also seen some of these random creatures that Adrian has as well.
D-Sphere going to take care of Jace. You see Sullivan's not going to fight over that. He will take a draw, however. He's going to play a Temple of Deceit. Top card is what he's going to look at. That's going to go to the bottom for the blue-white control player. Is it time to fire up Mutavault? It looks like it is. Looks like he's firing up a couple things. Keyrune. Let's get into the red zone, shall we?
Boom.
Let's see where we're going. Looks like we're going all upstairs here. He's going to pass the turn back over to Maftei, who's going to tap all those lands. He'll take a draw. Looks like he drew a copy of Thoughtseize. That's a good place to start. Sullivan, will he fight over this? He says no. You can choose between Negate and Attention Sphere, 2 cards that you knew I had. So there goes the D-Sphere. Sullivan buff with just the Negate.
And if Maftei has any sort of reasonable follow-up here, he should be able to cement the game.
Now, the big thing here is that even though these players are playing at a frenetic pace right now, the one thing you can't forget is that, you know, if you're not used to playing at a frenetic pace, things can get actually, you know, a little ugly here for you. You could actually make some missteps because you're playing so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see Sullivan's going to fire up those Mutavaults and get into the red zone. Last Breath is going to take care of one of them, which, of course, Adrian didn't know he had. He didn't know that Maftei had, because of that Jace.
I like the way that Adrian's playing this game. He's not trying to fight over any sort of card advantage battle at this point. He's just trying to maybe attack Dan to death if he can and save his resources for one big fight. Because he's so outclassed in terms of cards here that he can't really fight a card economy war anymore. He has to fight over the text boxes that matter.
There's a bit of a negate action. Now this is a render silence, so that's going to have a counter war that Adrian has won. And Dan's going to draw a card.
One render silent in the sideboard.
Yep, a card that he does like quite a bit. And you see Sullivan is going to take a draw here. So again, you know, we saw 2 revelations resolved here by Dan, and here's a divination from Adrian, so he's going to draw 2 new cards. There's a real possibility here. Here's another copy of divination that just Maftei didn't draw anything of relevance. And, you know, if you're Sullivan, I think that's what you have to hope for, is that maybe they just kind of bricked a bunch and, you know, maybe I can win, because he's not really doing anything.
Well, I think what Adrian has to hope for at this point is there's something poorly structured about Dan's 60 cards right now.
Sure.
If he's sideboarded in such a way where he either can't answer these attackers or doesn't have enough ways in his deck left to win.
So Sullivan's going to fire up the key rune and the Mutavault and get into the red zone here. It looks like something is going to die potentially.
Fated Retribution, I believe, was played.
And pass the turn back after Adrian does play another copy of Mutavault. So Maftei is going to draw a card. You see there's a Pithy Needle in his hand right now, among other things. Looks like he's a little hesitant to actually play a Needle because, you know, he could play Needle on Mutavault, but he has Mutavault of his own, so it would shut that off. And now Sullivan says, let's try to resolve this. A little counter war here. And, wow, the Sphinx Revelation is actually going to resolve for Sullivan. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Dan's hands just a lot of detention spheres and such.
You see these players, again, they're moving at an absolutely frenetic pace because you see that we're under 4 minutes here on the clock, and they know that in a 10-round tournament, you do not want to draw in round 1. Mutavault is going to try to block Mutavault. Celestial Flare is going to take care of that. A card in Sullivan's sideboard. If you saw in the last turn, as Adrian does play an Island, he resolved a Sphinx Revelation for a relevant amount. Now he's actually the one with the more cards here. Maftei's going to play Temple of Enlightenment. That card's going to go to the bottom. Sullivan's going to quickly untap. Mutavault's going to get fired up. Maftei at 16. Will he go down to 14 is the question. He's going to take a moment. It looks like he is. Sullivan's going to play a Plains and pass the turn back over to Dan, who will take a draw. It's a copy of Thoughtseize, so we can see what Adrian has potentially. It's a render silence, so Dan says, actually, I don't think so. And Dan will not actually get to play another spell because of render silence. So
yeah, he was moving to Needle there, and it's no.
No. Sullivan going to play a Hollow Fountain tapped after attacking Mutavault and passing the turn back. Dan will untap. He'll draw a card. You see the scattered massive lands that he does have. And this is going to be a negate, looks like, on another Thoughtseize. So now Dan's going to play a Needle. We'll see what this is going to name. I promise, you know, a lot of times when you see like highlights and stuff, it seems like, you know, sometimes they play it fast. But no, that's just how fast these people are actually playing, as Mutavault's actually going to be named on the Needle. D-Sphere is going to take care of that so Adrian can keep attacking with the Mutavault.
I've never seen 2 control players play this fast.
No, neither have I. Let's see what this is going to be. This is a copy of Revoke Existence on the Detention Sphere. It's going to give the Needle back. It'll probably come back and name Mutavault again as Sullivan's going to untap. He's going to take a draw, and it is Mutavault again. So now here's a divination. Sullivan wants 2 more cards, and he's going to get them. He has not played a land yet this turn. He's going to play Detention Sphere on the Needle, saying, give me my Mutavault back.
At this point, it's pretty insane that Dan's only really found the one Elspeth to win with.
Yes. The fact that he resolved Revelation, I think he drew basically plus 12 cards.
Yeah.
This game, and not to mention just all the scrying that's happened here. It's a little bit surprising.
Especially since in the post-board games in these matchups, most decks are trying to bring in more win conditions.
Yep. And again, we have seen the creature plan in the sideboards of these decks. We've seen Nightfell Specters and Blood Barons, Bramazes, and things of that nature from Esper, but not this go around here for Dan. He's got Thoughtseizes, he's got a couple copies of Blood Baron, just 2, as Adrian will quickly untap, fire up a Mutavault here in just a moment and probably attack, but he's going to start by casting Divination. So 2 cards coming here for the blue-white control player. There is a Mutavault. It's going to put Dan down to 4. You see, we're underneath 2 minutes here on the clock. Sullivan's going to actually cast a copy of Debtor's Pulpit, the answer to Aetheling. We found it.
Yeah, it was pretty popular in Block Constructed. It was almost the only answer to Aetheling in the format.
Yep.
And it can also do work. Can also do some good work against large green decks too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's an obscure answer, but it's an answer nonetheless. And Sullivan's going to attack here, put Maftei down to 2, and that is going to do it. A lone Mutavault gets the job done, and Adrian Sullivan,
what on earth did we just see?
Playing at a pace that was difficult to commentate on, gets the job done. 2 games to 1.
What was that all about?
Sometimes you got to get moving.
No,
moving and grooving.
I just don't know what was in Dan's deck.